Ezekiel was a prophet of Jehovah who served during a turbulent period in Israel's history. He was among the Jews exiled to Babylon following King Nebuchadnezzar's conquest of Jerusalem in 597 BCE. The name, Ezekiel, means God strengthens, and Jehovah indeed strengthened him for the challenging task of serving as a watchman to the rebellious nation of Israel. Ezekiel chapter 2 verses 3-7. Jehovah's Witnesses view Ezekiel as a faithful servant of God who delivered strong warnings, vivid prophecies, and hopeful messages of restoration. Ezekiel's calling and prophetic role. Ezekiel was called by God around 613 BCE, about 5 years after being taken into exile. His calling is recorded in Ezekiel chapter 1, where he received a vision of Jehovah's glory. This vision included the awe-inspiring celestial chariot, which demonstrated God's sovereignty and the active role of his spirit-directed organization. Jehovah's Witnesses often highlight Ezekiel's boldness and obedience, as he was tasked with delivering messages to a stubborn and rebellious people. His work included judgment against Israel. Ezekiel warned the Jews of the consequences of their unfaithfulness and idolatry, foretelling the destruction of Jerusalem. Ezekiel chapter 4 verses 1-3, 7-1-4. Judgment against nations. He also delivered pronouncements against surrounding nations, demonstrating Jehovah's universal sovereignty. Ezekiel chapters 25-32. Key prophecies and their symbolism. Ezekiel's prophecies are rich with symbolism, which Jehovah's Witnesses interpret as containing deep spiritual lessons. The vision of dry bones, Ezekiel chapter 37 verses 1-14. This vision symbolizes the spiritual restoration of God's people. Jehovah's Witnesses understand it as foreshadowing the restoration of true worship and the gathering of faithful individuals into a spiritually revitalized congregation. The temple vision, Ezekiel chapters 40-48. Ezekiel's vision of a grand temple is seen as symbolic of Jehovah's perfect standards of worship. For Jehovah's Witnesses, this vision underscores the sanctity of worship and the orderliness of God's purposes. The watchman's role, Ezekiel chapter 3 verses 17-21, 33, 1-9. Jehovah appointed Ezekiel as a watchman, responsible for warning the wicked and guiding the righteous. Witnesses apply this principle to their modern preaching work, viewing themselves as spiritual watchmen tasked with spreading the good news and warning of impending judgment. Jehovah's glory and sovereignty. Ezekiel's visions consistently highlight Jehovah's glory and the importance of recognizing his sovereignty. The celestial chariot vision, Ezekiel chapter 1, portrays Jehovah's universal control and the harmonious functioning of his heavenly organization. Witnesses draw parallels between this vision and the modern organization of Jehovah's Witnesses, emphasizing the need for unity and adherence to divine guidance. Ezekiel's personal example. Jehovah's Witnesses admire Ezekiel's resilience, faithfulness, and willingness to follow Jehovah's direction, even when faced with personal hardship. For instance, Ezekiel's wife died during his ministry, yet he obeyed Jehovah's command not to mourn publicly, serving as a living illustration of God's judgment on Jerusalem. Ezekiel chapter 24 verses 15-18. He endured opposition and ridicule from his fellow exiles but remained steadfast in delivering Jehovah's messages. Modern-day application. Jehovah's Witnesses often use Ezekiel's example to encourage faithfulness and obedience in their service to God. They see parallels between Ezekiel's role and their own work of proclaiming God's kingdom and warning of future judgment. His prophecies also reinforce their belief in Jehovah's power to restore true worship and bring about a future paradise. Hopeful messages of restoration. While Ezekiel delivered messages of judgment, he also conveyed hope. The return of exiles to their homeland prefigures the spiritual restoration experienced by God's people today. The depiction of Jehovah as a loving shepherd who seeks out and cares for his sheep, Ezekiel chapter 34 verses 11-16, resonates with witnesses, who emphasize Jehovah's tender care for his worshippers. In summary, Ezekiel is viewed by Jehovah's Witnesses as a courageous prophet whose life and ministry offer profound lessons about faithfulness, the importance of pure worship, and the hope of restoration. His visions and prophecies remain deeply relevant, inspiring their global preaching work and reinforcing their trust in Jehovah's promises. Please subscribe,